Hi there and welcome. This is Vince of vinceprep.com, and I want to talk about one of my favorite essays for one of the top MBA programs to which I help a lot of people apply, and that's Yale. A bit of background: I don't know if this is entirely relevant, but I know Yale really well. When I was 18, I thought I wanted to go to Yale undergraduate. My reasons were pretty shallow. My neighbor, who was a big role model of mine, had gone there, and I just thought he was a cool guy. Therefore, Yale must be a cool school. That's about what I knew coming from the suburbs of California, public school. I didn't get in early. I got in the regular round, and when I didn't get in early, of course, I had to broaden my options, and then I ended up applying to a bunch more schools. In the final analysis, I had to decide. I ruled out Harvard. I got into Harvard, Princeton, a bunch of fancy schools, and I got a full scholarship at UC Berkeley. I could put all those aside, but I couldn't really. I really had a hard time deciding between Stanford and Yale, Stanford and Yale, Stanford and Yale. I think I have some other information or posts about how I made that decision, and I love telling that story. It's a very personal story for me. But anyway, my point is, the question for Yale this year and last year as well, this question for Yale, I really like it because it reminds me of the Stanford GSB MBA question about what matters most to you and why. And I just love that essay, and I hope they never change it. Someday maybe they will, but for now they've had the wisdom to keep that question as their question. And other schools, emulate them because it's just it's great for a school like Yale that is very mission driven. Take a look at the Yale School of Management mission and objectives. Once upon a time, I thought I wanted an MBA, and Yale was my dream school because it's always had this mission of educating leaders for businesses, educating leaders for business and society. My background is education. My first career out of Stanford undergraduate was running an educational nonprofit and teaching middle and high school. And so education, K-12, particular education, and giving educational opportunities to people that otherwise may not have good access to them has been and continues to be my passion. And so Yale at that time was not even in those days, it wasn't even giving an MBA degree. It was like a master's in leadership or management or something. Anyway, this school is very mission-driven, and this question forces you to be very mission-driven as well, to be really specific about your mission. Let me just analyze the question and then give my sort of quick, off the top of my head, unstructured, bad answer, but my honest answer for Yale, what it would, if I was applying to Yale MBA program, Yale School of Management MBA for this year, this is what I would say to the question. The question is, describe the biggest commitment you have ever made. So this isn't like last week I decided to apply to MBA or whatever. What are the things people can commit to? You can commit to people. You can commit to family, to people, to organizations, or to concepts or ideas. And those three things. I looked at the Clear Admit analysis. I always trust the Clear Admit. It's like those are the guys that have been doing essay analysis probably longer than anyone. Schools look at Clear Admit, so I look at Clear Admit. I don't try to recreate. You can tell Vince Prep is far and away, has far less information, or is much more niche information than Clear Admit. Clear Admit is where I go to, sort of my go-to spot. I'm very old school in this. Anyway, they say, and I agree, I can't think of a fourth one. It's you commit to an idea, a person, or people, or an organization. My answer to this question would be different than my answer for Stanford. My answer for Stanford, you can see my Stanford, what matters most to you answer would be community. Creating community matters most to me as an activity. I would choose to focus for Stanford on an activity because that activity, I have lots of examples from the past, and that's probably going to be what I continue to do until I exit this planet, is create community in various ways. The biggest commitment I've ever made for Yale, if I had already written my Stanford essay and I was in a big hurry, I guess I could just repurpose my Stanford essay, but I suspect that they know. They can tell. I know some of the admissions officers at Yale pretty well. I know admissions officers at a lot of these schools pretty well over the years through AGAC and other contexts. I've gotten to know some of them, and I trust that they are highly aware of each other's essay questions, and they can sort of just intuitively sense a cut and paste essay versus a fresh answer. So I would, if I was serious about Yale, I would make a fresh answer to this slightly different question. In my case, the answer that came up first for me, and I still think it's my best answer, is not an idea, a person, or an organization, but in my case, it's a country. The biggest commitment I've ever made is to the country and the people of Japan. When I was thinking about proposing to my wife, my boss at the time, who was an American guy, the CEO of the company that first brought me to Japan, which was not Agos or Princeton Review. I wasn't doing admissions consulting work in those days. I was designing curriculum. I was doing content creation for a video project that never happened. But my boss was this American guy, and he said, be careful. If you marry a Japanese person, Japanese woman in my case, you're marrying a country. It's like he said, I'm going to get sort of choked up here. He's like, you can't separate a Japanese woman from her mom. It's just I don't know if you can separate any woman from her mom, but he's just sort of deeply in tune with this culture. And in our case, anyway, I won't get into my personal story too much, but that's the biggest commitment I've ever made. And for me, I fought it for a long time, especially around the nuclear meltdown that happened in 2011, the earthquake. The earthquake didn't disturb me too much. I grew up with earthquakes, but feeling like I had just completely lost control. I had now he's in middle school, but at the time our son was still quite young. And I just felt so hopeless and frustrated that there was just no information that I could trust, right? The Japanese government was saying one thing, the US government embassy was saying something else, and who knew really what the heck was going on and whether or not, the radiation was going to be blowing over my house and exposing my family to lethal amounts of radiation. That was just, and after that point, I really got deeply depressed. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. But I would tell some of that story. I only have 500 words, but the biggest commitment I've made and the best thing I've done in my life in the past 5 years was to stop fighting it and just commit to stay here for the sake of my family and to give up this dream that I've held for a long time of bringing them back with me to the States. That may never happen. I might die in this country, and that would be okay with me at this point. And that's a big thing to say, and I'm almost 50, so I'm in a different place. I'm twice as old as most of you. So it's like, I don't know, I'm giving away this answer because I'm pretty sure you're not going to copy it. And it would not be my Stanford essay. And it would have something to do with me committing to this country and the things I hope to do for this country, which I won't go into in this short video. But, I'm trying to move beyond just doing admissions work. I love helping 5, 10, 15, whatever number of people a year sell themselves to schools and get admitted to London and Yale and Harvard and Wharton and Stanford and INSEAD and all these top, great, wonderful schools. Berkeley and everywhere else. But it's kind of like, if I'm halfway through my life at least, isn't there something else I could be doing that is useful or relevant, not just for those who want an MBA? And I've been struggling with that. And good friends of mine say to me, Vince, just stop, just give it up. Just don't try to turn this into something more than it, this is just this. And they're right in the sense that I don't ever want to feel unsatisfied or unfulfilled. And I do deeply love my work. It's just that I am an educator, first and foremost. And I use technology to try to reach as big an audience as I can, because I just want to try to, like a lot of people who believe in what they're saying, want to reach an audience. And I do believe that the storytelling skills that are part of applying to graduate school are useful for all of us. All of us need to tell stories in our lives, sometimes for admissions, sometimes for job interviews, sometimes for a business pitch, sometimes just to convince our significant other of something that we care deeply about. We just need to tell stories on a daily basis to get through our lives, and the more deeply we can connect those stories to what matters most to us and to stories that matter to us, the more effective we will be, and I believe the more satisfied we will be at living our lives. And again, this is all sort of very vague, but the biggest commitment I've ever made is to Japan, and what has that looked like up until now, and the times that was hard for me to accept, that I've really moved to a new country, and now this country is my home. That took a while for me to get my head around, because I'm not a typical expat, short-term package kind of guy. I really had to deeply commit. And also what that means for me in the future a little bit, in terms of me trying to bring these skills that have been successful helping Japanese and other people apply to business school for 15 plus years. I want to bring those skills out to a wider audience of Japanese and also non-Japanese to help you guys get where you're trying to go and become who you're trying to be. And this video is a bit of a mess, and I appreciate your time and attention as always. Please subscribe to my channel when I've made new videos. I love making these videos every chance I get. That's all for now. Best of luck applying to Yale, Stanford, wherever it is you're trying to go, whatever it is you're trying to do with life. I wish you the very best in getting there. All right, bye for now.